I'll wait a few more minutes before we get started.
This meeting is being recorded. By continuing, you are consenting. Okay. Yeah.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome everybody to our November Franciscans for Earth event. And our speaker, Sister Gail from the Green Mountain Monastery in Vermont. I welcome everybody that's from across the United States. And when I checked the registrations, there was some from Canada. We had one from Australia. Now, I don't know who all got on, but I'm delighted to see so many people from across the world that are participating in our event this evening. I'd like to acknowledge our Franciscan sisters if they just want to wave a hand so people can see my community of Franciscan sisters. Before we get into the event, I want to remind you that our next FFE event will be in January. We do not have a Franciscans for Earth event in December. And in January, our speaker will be Jean Ponzi, and her topic will be, Where is a Way? So talking about trash, consumables, compostables, and recycled. That would be in January. Please check our website to register for that. This evening, though, Sister Gail is will engage us, I'll put it that way instead of just give a presentation, will engage us with the question, what is the Earth community asking of me? That question is from Father Thomas Berry's book, or he asked it in his book, The Dream of the Earth. I don't want to give too much away, and I'm going to turn it over to Sister Gail. I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves, please.
And Cheryl, can you please make me a co-host?
Oh, definitely.
Thank you.
Oops.
Yes, so hello everyone, and thank you so much, Sister Cheryl, and to all of your sisters, the Franciscan Sisters of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And yes, for sponsoring this tonight and for your beautiful mission, which is inclusive of healing the earth community. And it's especially wonderful, really, that you're hosting this today on the 107th birthday of Thomas Berry. And it's a joy to be celebrating that with all of you here. Particularly a warm welcome to and a joy to welcome Jessica Romisher, who is a longtime friend and is an award-winning pianist and storyteller. And Jessica and I will be co-creating this session today. And finally, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you who are inspired by Thomas Berry and who are seriously asking the question, what is the Earth community asking of us? And particular welcome to those of you from Indonesia, from Australia and Canada, and various other places outside of the United States. So we have a warm welcome for all of you. Yeah, so I would like to begin with an early childhood memory. And I was 2 years old and sitting on the floor of our apartment. I grew up in New York and on the Lower East Side, and it was Christmas time. And one of the presents I received was a tiny piano that I immediately began to play by hitting the keys with my little fingers and conjuring sound from the black and white keys. Fascinated by the sound, I really began to have a special tune that I called my own. So I played it over and over and over again. And I called that tune my secret chord. And my parents took this photo of that moment, which remained on their dresser until their passing. And I always loved this photo, my secret chord, my true note. And then about 3 years ago, I was on a sabbatical in New York City. And I went to the Jewish Museum, which was hosting the exhibit of Leonard Cohen. And I walked into one of the rooms, and to my surprise, there were many microphones hanging from the ceiling. And each person who entered the room could stand in front of the microphone and join in song. So I stood in front of one of the microphones with many others, and the music began. And the first words that I heard were these. I heard there was a secret chord that David played and pleased the Lord. And it was those words, secret chord, that captured my imagination and brought me back to this moment in early childhood of 2 years old. It also describes so beautifully what Thomas Berry meant when he said that every being has its own unique melody and declares itself to the universe. I am here. So standing before the microphone that day in the museum, the music began to play and it sounded like this.
was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. It goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And, in addition to being an award-winning pianist, Jessica is also a visual artist and offers online inspirational performances that can be accessed on Facebook and YouTube. And she's the creator of a beautiful Vimeo entitled A Love Song to Earth. So during our time, if the music is a little too loud, you can just adjust it on your own computer. You can go to your volume and access that so that you're in a good state to listen. So I'm going to just tell you a story about Jessica and myself related to what we want to talk about today. So about I think I'm echoing a bit. Hello? Okay. Yes, about 20 years ago, Jessica and I were in India together at an ashram in a town called Rishikesh at the headwaters of the Ganges. And we were on a spiritual retreat. And every morning we left our room, dorm room, we would go outside the ashram and pass an old man sitting outside a building who had a flute and a large round basket beside him with something tightly coiled up inside the basket. And as soon as we came out, this man would start playing his flute, and coiled in the basket was a huge snake that would slowly start to uncoil itself and open out into the fullness of its snakehood. So it was as if the snake charmer was pulling out the secret cord of the snake itself, the essence, the isness of the snake. And through the patient playing of his music, he would draw out the possibility, of the snake. And this would go on morning after morning during our retreat at this ashram. And I'm wondering, Jessica, if you remember this.
I do, Gail. These kinds of things, they've clearly stayed in both of our memories. And I remember seeing this burlap bag, like that brown burlap bag yet unfolded, and you sensed there was something inside of it. And as the snake charmer began to weave notes out, sitting there, and that bag opened, and there began this little bit of movement from the bottom. And the notes were like emanating vibrations that were pulling the coiled creature that was there, hidden, up into the light of day. And as that beautiful cobra raised its head, it began to flow back and forth, dancing subtly and gently on the notes that were played to it, to the point where it was clear the snake charmer and that beautiful cobra had become like one being, with no fear, just ease and peace and love.
So I think of this image of the snake charmer as a metaphor for the life and work of Thomas Berry, who was a true snake charmer, calling forth our potential as humans to bring about the Ecozoic era, and a name he termed for the upcoming era that he invited us into, an era of mutually enhancing relationship with the Earth community. And Thomas Berry would often say that when our cultural coding no longer has the wisdom or the authority or integrity to guide us into the future, a return must be made to our deeper wisdom, coiled up in the very intelligence of our genetic coding. And this coiled up intelligence is what he referred to as the dream of the earth in us. Thomas Berry played the flute as a cultural historian and geologian, inviting us into what he called the Ecozoic era, a geological era of Earth still coiled up in potential and needing to be activated. So if you want to know Thomas Berry, you must understand this whole sense of Ecozoic era, because it's fundamental to the teaching of Thomas Berry and really fundamental to our journey forward if we're going to make it into the future. So just get the sense of that felt sense of coil, the coiled up notion of the coiled up snake or the coiled up DNA, coiled up potential in the very essence of who we are. And Thomas, asked the question, how can we activate the Ecozoic era or release that which is coiled up in as potential in our humanity to bring us into this new era? And I want to show you this because it's so important to understand when we say the Ecozoic era, we're referring to a huge era. It's not just historical, but it's biogeological. It's a era that Earth is potentially entering into following the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic. So we look at the early Earth as the Paleo and Middle Earth as the Mesozoic and later Earth as Cenozoic. And Thomas Berry said we are at a bifurcation point right now, and that we'll either move into the Ecozoic, which can be translated as house of life, or we'll move into a destructive mode and really collapse, ourselves and the planet. And so I imagine you feel this as I do, that place we find ourselves at, some bifurcation point of not knowing whether or not we're going to make it. And as we feel COP26 happening and COVID raging and fires and tornadoes and everything happening in the world and in our own lives, the collapse of so much, we teeter-totter on this point. And this is really what I want to bring in today. If in some way, through music, through a different mode of being, because what Thomas said is that we can't only rely on our rational contrivances to find our way into the future. We have to also rely on the deep interior dimensions of ourselves, the dream of the earth, access other dimensions of our beingness. So we're going to try to do that today in the small way, in the short time we have, to access the dream of earth and that question, what is the earth community asking of us? So as we proceed, I want to give just a little bit of connection. How am I related in what way to Thomas Berry? So for me, Thomas Berry was the most significant human to play the flute and unleash my own secret chord in this moment of ecozoic uncertainty. So I met Thomas Berry in 1983 when I joined the Passionist Order, which is a community of Catholic sisters, brothers, and priests, which Thomas was a part. And during my novitiate, Thomas came to give us classes and opened our minds to the story of the universe and our role and our context in the larger comprehensive unfolding of a 13.7 billion year universe. And the physicist Brian Swim once said, what historic good fortune to have had the actual ineffable experience of being in Thomas Berry's presence. And I feeling so grateful for having had this opportunity to be with him for so long. So he gave us our class in 1983, and I asked at that time if I could study with him, and so studied with him until his death in 2009. So there is a very long history that I really can't go into tonight. It's so much, but I just wanted to bring in two things that Thomas Berry did that oriented me in my life and my work with him. And the first was that in 1994, Thomas Berry presented a paper in Rome at the Conference of the Union International of Superiors General. And that paper was entitled Women Religious, Their Future Role. And in that paper, he was addressing Catholic sisters in particular. And he said that historically, women's communities were founded to address the needs of the human community. So we had communities founded to educate, to work in hospitals and social work and ministries all around the human. And that there was never a community founded that would address the needs of the planet specifically, that would address the healing and protection of Earth. So we took Thomas Berry up on that. And in 1999, myself and Sister Bernadette and Thomas Berry co-founded what has come to be known as Sisters of the Earth Community, located in Greensboro, Vermont. And we like to say that when people ask us how many members are in your community, we say innumerable. There are just too many members to count. There are several humans, but the rest of the members, we just impossible to give you a number on. And we are here in Greensboro, Vermont at Green Mountain Monastery and the Thomas Berry Sanctuary. So I posed this question to you tonight, and this is what we're going to explore together. And I'm really going to invite you into this question, but this is the question we continually ask of ourselves. And in the founding of the community, what is the Earth community asking of us? And I want to share with you two answers to that question that came about when I was, for myself and for Thomas Berry, each when we were young, when we were in our early years. So I'll tell you my story, my little thing first, and then I'll tell you Thomas's. But when the question is posed, what is the Earth community asking of us? My answer to that is coming from the experience I had when I was 6 years old. And when I was 6 years old, that's me at 6, I was outside playing and it was snowing outside, and my mother called me in for lunch. So I came in freezing cold and I had some hot soup, and then my mother said, off to bed to take a nap. So I went to bed, I'm lying in bed, and I started put my hand up like this, and I'm asking myself the question, what does it mean to be me? And I just kept looking at my little hand. What does it mean to be me? And suddenly it was as if the veils between the worlds were torn asunder. And I had the experience of no separation between myself and existence. And it was like a collapse of the self into the unity of reality. And actually, it was an experience of unitive consciousness that was really held out to me, and by extension to all of us holographically, because what happens to one happens to all. So when we ask the question, what is the Earth community asking of us in this ecozoic era at this bifurcation point, I think that the first answer, or one answer to that question, is it's asking of us, it's asking for the acceleration of consciousness, the acceleration of consciousness from a consciousness of separation to a consciousness of communion, by dissolving all the separations within ourselves. And I think that's really the first place, like the most profound place that we can begin, because what we do, what happens at any level of our own being, and we are the first place of the ecozoic. This is the place we have most control over, in the sense of contribution here, when we're talking at the level of consciousness. So Yes. So I think it is the experience of unitive consciousness that is being held out to us, that is one of the answers that the Earth community, that we can give the Earth community or answer back. What is the Earth community asking of us? It's asking of us to be liberated from our sense of separation. So that was one side of the coin of my story. And then Thomas Berry had another story, another experience that answers that question. So the second answer to the question, what is the Earth community asking of us? In Thomas's answer is critical reflection and non-participation in the large-scale forces that are destroying the planet. So here's Thomas's story, and this is how he came to that. So Thomas Berry, when he was 8 years old, was a boy who liked to walk barefoot. And he lived in North Carolina and would run through the fields and the grass and the town barefoot. And he used to say, oh, you know, I was a brooding child with a deep sense of the sacred. And you could imagine him as a young boy running barefoot, tall and lanky as he was on the roads and the fields of North Carolina. And then he said at a certain point, the trucks came in and they tarred the roads with black asphalt. And he said he could no longer run on the roads barefoot because it would burn the bottoms of his feet. And he resented the paving of the roads. And he said that from that moment on, he became a critic of the industrial process. And he was concerned with what was happening to the outer world because of the press of the industrial era. And one of his famous lines is, "We've gone mad, stark raving mad, destroying the planet. But more specifically, we're terminating the last 65 million years of the Cenozoic era, the last 65 years of life development." And he went on to say that the universe and Earth is a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects. And if we don't learn that, then nothing is going to work. So here are just two instances coming from myself and Thomas to the question, what is the Earth community asking of us? One, acceleration in consciousness, moving within ourselves, particularly, and then collectively, from a consciousness of separation to a consciousness of communion. And secondly, what is the Earth community asking of us? Critical reflection, non-participation in the large-scale forces that are destroying the planet. So I'd like to bring forward, since we're celebrating Thomas, I'd like to bring forward Thomas Berry right now.
Destroying the planet. But more specifically, we're terminating the last 65 million years of life development. We don't understand the Earth as a sacred reality, which means a sense of the rivers, mountains. The universe, in particular planet Earth, is a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects. If we don't learn that, nothing's going to work. Thomas Berry is
multitude of things, something like looking at a mosaic or looking at a rose window with many petals and many colors coming through it. He's a monk and a priest out of the Catholic tradition. He is an intellectual, an academic, a professor. He's also a writer and a geologian who's put together a comprehensive story of our journey in the universe.
One of the great contributions that Thomas made in my life, he named what was the essential discovery. That was that the universe is fundamentally a story. And when he said that, all that I'd learned in geology, astronomy, biology, came together in a single pattern of story.
Last night, the moon shining on this wonderful day. I asked the moon, what should I say? Tell them the story. And I asked the wind, what should I say? Tell them the story. I asked the goat, I don't know. What should I say? Goat, tell them the story. My story. Mountain story. River story. Your story. Indian story. The great story.
So, yes, I'd like to ask you now. We're going to lead a little bit of a meditation now along the lines of that story about the question of, can we feel the deep wisdom of the universe story coiled within us? And with that question, what is the Earth community asking of us? And we'd like to give a little bit of time for that question to just move in you in whatever way it can. Allow Jessica, as she plays now, allow the music to be like the snake charmer, drawing out of you a deeper response to the question of, what is the Earth community asking of me, meaning you, right now? And we're going to play for a little bit, Jessica, just move us into a meditative space in ourselves and just get comfortable. And the question that you're holding is that question of what in you needs to be, is wanting to be uncoiled, that is coming from the deeper wisdom at the deeper center of yourself. And then we're going to explore that together. But first we need to kind of journey in and journey deep. So Jessica, lead us in that, please. So this is a time to just close your eyes now and let your mind relax. Dropping into the heart in the center. So staying now in this beautiful vibratory field that is lifted by even the tone of the piano, the music. We're going, Cheryl, I'm going to ask you if you could place us into groups of 4, and we're just going to share what's coming up, what is arising, particularly around that question, what is the Earth community asking of me, of us? And Cheryl, if we'll just go into groups of 4 for about 10 minutes, can you place us there? Thank you. So the question again, sharing with each other, just from this open-hearted space of exploration and inquiry, what is being asked of us, of me now? So we can, I'm going to time this. Let's see. Get my timer. So we'd probably give it about 10 minutes. Jessica, what do
Yeah.
you think? Yep, 10.
About 7, yeah, about 7:58 would be 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll get the timer on. Yeah, great. So we could ourselves go through the question, what is the Earth community asking of us now? Oh,
Judy, what happened? You're muted, Judy.
All of a sudden I was off the screen and I didn't know what happened. So I thought I gotta get out and come back in. So, oh my. That's
you
all.
could place Judith in a breakout room.
Okay, she'll be with us.
Yeah, so you could place her.
Oh, you can put me into wherever I need to go. That's fine with me.
Okay, I'm gonna put you in. There you go.
Okay, I'll join too.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I was taken about that snake and that coil and thinking about how that music lured that snake, I'm assuming it's a cobra, out of the basket. And I'm always, I like the phrase that God allures us from ahead, and we have to be open to that music. We have to be responsive. And so just that idea, that coil, that we're coiled, and we need that music to loosen us up, to lure us out of ourselves. That was one of the first things that struck me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you said about loosening, how a music can loosen up the coil, loosen up the tight.
Mm-hmm. I think it goes with what Father Thomas was saying, Gail, about how this is a process whereby deeper dimensions of ourselves are now coming to the fore. It's not just, what was the word that he used? Not just a cognitive.
Yeah.
How did he put that?
Meaning the rational, not relying just on our rational
Yeah,
contrivances.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling you're really feeling the Ecozoic era as a time as a potential that we're in right now, and that the potential's coiled, just waiting to, be released. And I wonder if it would be released, if enough of us, enough of us are pushing into that consciousness of communion, and with the collective impulse of that suddenly go, boop, click it into something. That would be incredible, unimaginable right now, where we would shape a world within a communion consciousness.
I think that,
Gail, yeah, I'm sorry, sisters.
go ahead.
I was thank you. I was just looking at the notes for this right after the group sharing, and what you just said, Gail, I think is a perfect frame for what you could say in response to people's sharing. That what you just said would be like the perfect framework for people beginning to realize that what they come back from the breakout groups to say is this very thing that you just articulated, that this is the uncoiling of that new DNA, that new, the awakening of those strands, and that deeper intelligence that is moving us into this new era. It was beautiful how you put it.
Yes. Yeah. Like through our sharing like this, and trying to access that question, what is the Earth community asking of us? It's the uncoiling of the potential,
Yeah,
it's the uncoiling of the potential deep inside the Ecozoic, and deep inside our DNA, or the dream of the Earth.
It's so beautiful. And what you said, Cheryl, about how you could feel the music, that you could actually feel that process. It's just so beautiful. It's not theoretical. It's actually what's happening. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you were talking about to not be separated, and that what happens to one happens to all, that people, we need to be more aware of that, but we're only going to become more aware of that if we have more things like this, that we can tap into each other. So although there might be disparate groups working to promote Earth, to promote this consciousness, that the more groups that know about each other spurs the hope that something can happen and that we can be connected. So the more that we can get the word out of things of this nature that we're doing tonight, helps to promote that we are not separate, that we are not separated, that we are united.
Beautiful.
Gail, I know we practiced that, and that little video that you showed, and it was loud enough when we did the practice. But for me, when we did it now, it was real quiet.
Oh,
I don't know what happened.
Did you hit your button on your computer?
No, it's still at 100%.
Oh, really?
Volume. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's too
I don't know
bad.
if because
It was
of
loud
the number.
on mine.
It was loud on yours? Okay. Well, I hope then for a lot of people they could hear it or understand him, because I could not.
Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
I couldn't either. Yeah.
You couldn't.
I was going to text you, Gail, and say, because I actually am coming through an amplifying machine, and I had to turn that way up to even begin. So I was just going to text you and suggest that there might be things that you'd want to echo of what Father Berry said in that
Right,
video,
which I did
just acknowledging,
previous. Yeah, I did do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe acknowledge,
Oh,
people may have had that experience.
oh,
So,
that's too bad. So
yeah,
you couldn't
yeah,
hear anything?
I could hear something, but I really didn't understand what he was saying.
Oh, oh, that's too bad.
yeah.
Yeah, we practiced it before and I put it
Know
up
it.
as we had it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, the glitches.
We
Well, maybe
tried.
Jessica, can you take a few notes? Like when you do the closing,
Yeah.
can you be inclusive of what we have talked about all along? Like bring in everything that we have brought up, like words, even like seek, record, and
Yep. Yep.
yeah. And then I could tell you what he said, in that video. Basically, the earth is a communion of subjects, not a collection of objects. And if we don't get that, nothing's going to matter. That was one of the main things.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think as people share, it might be worthwhile acknowledging that people may not have been able to hear that you're aware that people may not have been able to hear the
Yeah.
video. Because if I didn't have this machine, I wouldn't have been able to hear it myself either. And still it was hard. But I just think that might be an opportunity to acknowledge people's experience, to say, I realize now that you may not have been able to hear, but these are some of the things that he said. You could maybe use the integrating of their contextualizing of,
You mean after the sharing or before?
yeah, exactly.
After.
Well, either,
After
whatever you
sharing?
think. Yeah, maybe after, whatever you think.
Oh,
Maybe after, so that people can just go into this, but then say you become aware, that it's possible they didn't hear, but these are some of the things he said. I mean, what do you think?
because I did say, I did before that video, when the earth is a communion of subjects, and
Yep,
the thing
yep.
about we've gone mad, stark raving mad, destroying the
Yeah.
planet, but more specifically, we're terminating the Cenozoic.
Yep.
That's our 10 minutes, but hang on until we get the feel for this.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so what do you think then? They come back
Yeah.
and I want to talk to them about, how this is the uncoiling when we come together
Exactly,
like
right,
this. And this is it in real time. We don't have to wait for another time to access the dream of the earth inside of ourselves, what is coming
it's
up.
beautiful.
And what does come up would be the qualities, like let's listen for qualities of the Ecozoic era in our own words, like in our own experience. Like Thomas Berry has 14 principles of the Ecozoic, but let's see what's coming up in ourselves, to access that. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And
I think it could be just a line, just to acknowledge, then people feel that
at the
they're,
beginning, when they come back.
or at some point when, during what you're saying, you could just say, oh, I realize, you may not have been able to hear, but you could just weave it into what you just said so beautifully. Yeah.
Okay.
Then there won't be
Yes, I know.
you know what I
something
mean? This
hanging.
thing hanging,
Yeah.
like somebody's thinking, oh my God, what did I miss? Or something that, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. So basically we'll have, it's 9 o'clock. So basically this goes till about 9:15 or so, Cheryl?
We usually go to like another half hour, but it's up to you.
Okay. So we'll just play it by ear. What we'll do is bring them back and then we'll have them, share in a large group. And then Jessica, you'll pull it together with a closing meditation. I don't think we need them to ask questions, do you?
I don't think so.
No, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Okay, so we could, I think 10 minutes was enough, don't you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's bring them back.
Okay. We have 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, now, well, welcome back, everyone. And yes, we practiced the video before the call, but I understand that the video may not have been heard when I played it. So we don't know about technology. So I apologize for that. But at least we got to see Thomas Berry, even if we didn't hear him. And really some of a number of things that I already said was what he said in the video, having to do with our emergence out of the Cenozoic into the Ecozoic, and that first principle of the Ecozoic. He has 14 principles for the Ecozoic, and the first principle is that the Earth is a communion of subjects and not a collection of objects. And if we don't get that, he says, nothing's going to matter. And that's what he said in the video, and it's really his key point. So what's fascinating, really fascinating to me, and really is where I want to bring you in now, is that when Thomas Berry articulates the Ecozoic, he has 14 points for the Ecozoic. And he says it in his way. And I would like to invite us together to create another mosaic that expresses the Ecozoic era based on our own direct experience. So we just did such a short time together, but we asked the question, what is the Earth community asking of me and collectively of us? And we're going to have a little bit of time now to share what responses are coming up for that, to that question. And as we share, let's understand that as the uncoiling of the potential of the dream of the Earth inside each of us, and the activation of that in our world. So I'd like you to, anyone who would like to share, if you would maybe raise your hand or unmute, and let us hear what came up in your group or what is coming up in you to that question that we're probing. And these responses will be really the mosaic that creates what we can say or dream the Ecozoic into existence. So anybody?
Well, one thing that is seems to be arising, and it was spoken in our little group before, was an invitation to trust relationship with the creatures of Earth, Earth herself, her elements, like kind of dissolving that separation between myself and the hummingbird or eagle. Trusting that.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Maureen.
I would like to invite Amy to share. You know, we started talking about consciousness, awareness, rising, helping people become more sensitive to their communion with all. And so then Amy, both of us started talking about that gardener from the PBS not so long ago and what he was accomplishing in his backyard garden.
Mm.
But Amy, you had some insights. Would you mind sharing? Thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm reading this book called The Voice of Infinitely Small. It's revisioning our relationship with the insects. And it's a kind of like dismantled our cultural growing up thinking that the insects are our enemy, animosity toward the insects. When we see cockroach, we just kill right away or get rid of the bees when they are swarming around. And then Pauline, oh yeah, and she watched this movie on PBS about a guy, a gardener. He's not a gardener, he's a movie maker and used to film the wildlife. But because of the COVID, he couldn't get out of his place. So he started to look around his garden and discovered that there are 60 species of bees in his garden. And he started to have this new relationship and looking the bees in a different way and start to have this beautiful relationship. And we feel that that's probably, it's also part of what Earth is asking of us to really revision, have a new way of relating, like what Maureen is saying, and evaluate how do we relate with other beings around us.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Pauline, we just saw that video just this week. So amazing. It's called 1,000 Bees in My Backyard, I think.
Yeah, I don't know, but you know, it was so funny that here, Amy and I had both seen it and we just began talking about the message behind
Yeah.
that.
Yes,
Oh, it
thanks
was
for the
powerful,
message.
so beautiful. Mhm.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ami and Pauline. Anyone else?
Well, I can tell a little bit about what I do with the leaves that fall off the trees. In the suburb, many people just want the leaves off their grass because it's killing the grass and they don't want anything on top of their grass. Well, I rake my leaves off the grass too, but I always save them and pile them up. And by the next year, they've turned into beautiful black humus that smells delightful. In my particular suburb, in the fall, there's a municipal truck that is a huge vacuum cleaner, and anybody who wants to get rid of their leaves just leaves the pile of leaves right by the curb, and the truck comes along and sucks them all up. Well, I try to get to those piles of leaves before the truck does with my wheelbarrow. I'm the crazy lady in the neighborhood. I bring as many leaves as I can into my garden for leaf mulch. And well, for me, the prize leaves are the ones that have already been through somebody's lawnmower. So I can say they will definitely be good compost and good leaf mulch a year from now. And they smell so good the next year. And I can just sink my fingers into that black, moist, new earth. And it's always a delight. So that's my story.
Thank you, Carol. And I thought you were going to say you collect the leaves and then jump into them. You ever jump into them? Which can be a defining feature of the ecozoic, playfulness. Playfulness, well, right? With the immunity of life.
I think I'm being playful enough just to be the crazy lady of the neighborhood.
That's great, Carol. Thank you so much. Carol.
Hello.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. We had I think a very generative conversation, bouncing off one another. Really felt the pull, the deep pull up, and whether it was music for Angela or an abundance for Cecilia, and the excitement of the potential of seeds and seed saving in Amy. And that really freed something for me. That whole understanding of everything that we have to offer being a seed, and coming out of a place of abundance, how important those things are to even say, yes, we have something to co-create the ecozoic with. And so for me, in that time of reflection, I was able to come to some clarity around my work, which will be developing further evolutionary rituals and taking those back to my tradition. So thank you for the time. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Carol. So evolutionary rituals as another dimension of the ecozoic, the creation of new rituals within the context of the universe and earth communities. Lovely.
Exactly. And how important rituals are in terms of shaping the story and preserving the story and the culture. And so how desperately we need new ones to help us evolve consciousness, humanity, and culture.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Someone else?
I would say in our little group, we got onto the topic of youth and how they're feeling these days when we hear, them being out on the street at COP. They're very vocal and they're very concerned. And I mean, the ecozoic is really in their lap. So in terms of Carol just mentioning their ritual, I was blessed a week ago to work with 30 high school students and a bunch of seniors. And together we planted 100 trees. And the ritual was just so spontaneous because we were on hands and knees with the soil. And what happened was that the students were given names. Seniors could submit their name if they wanted to have one of these trees have their name. And the students painted rocks, and on the rocks, they put the senior's name and the person who painted it. So that really became a ritual to plant the tree and meet the students who painted our name rocks. So there was a lot of communion happening there. And I think we're all kind of worried about the earth, and when we can do anything that improves and blesses the earth, especially with youth, it's really pretty special. They need something to do and we need something to do.
Thank you, Daisy. The dimension of the beauty of intergenerational participation within the community of life as a dimension of the ecozoic.
Yeah, for sure.
Lovely. Thank you. Would anyone else have something that's coming up? It's what is for one is for all, really. And we're just creating a map. I hope you can see this. We're creating a mosaic of what the potential ecozoic, as we listen to one another, we're actually helping it uncoil in real time and space, because this isn't about tomorrow or some other program. This is real time right now. This is what's happening right now. So each of these sharings is a breaking open or unleashing of the coil a little bit more, as we all hear and experience what is being shared here.
Hi, Gail. It's Jean Ann Ledwell in Canada.
Hi, Jean.
A long time.
Yeah, lovely to see you.
Yes, I'm in Newfoundland at the moment. Not right now, but that's where I'm living. And one of the things that I've been very involved in, and it just spoke to me when you used that clip of Thomas with his bare feet on the road that then became paved. I'm involved with a whole group of people. We've only ever met on Zoom because of the pandemic. And we are working so hard to ensure that the city, with its famous new bike plan, doesn't take over all our brookside and riverside and pondside, just earthy trails. And they want to widen them and straighten them and pave them. And we are saying no. And we've been working really, really hard to protect the ground, the earth that we enjoy every day. And it's a struggle, I'm telling you. We've met with every city councillor, but it's just brought me back because I grew up in a place with no electricity, just close to the stars, to the galaxy. I'm just so glad to be working with such a group of people, and they're so diverse. That was the point that Daisy was making earlier about the intergenerational work being so absolutely incredible. So that's just reinforced for me that love of the earth itself. And some of the people in the little group from St. Louis that I was just speaking with, finally when I got on here, they're just doing all kinds of things in that regard, and they were just so welcoming, and I appreciated that.
Thank you, Jean. So we hear that struggle is part of the Ecozoic era. There's a lot of differing viewpoints that need to come together to create the proper path and the sharing of the different views. I would maybe one more like to share on what is coming up for you.
What's coming to me is is we're all learners. And as we listen to each other, the other aspect of listening to each other, listening to Earth, listening to the indigenous voices, there's a willingness, there seems to be an openness to do that now, where before it was like, oh, well, they don't have much to say, or the youth don't have much to say, or, seniors don't have much to say. But now it's like we're opening to each other's voices to hear the learnings, and we're all learning from that. So that seems to be a real space that we're in.
Yeah, thanks, Cecilia. Yeah, so this dimension of the Ecozoic, that seems to be a capacity now, or an even desire to listen to the voices of the various human and also the Earth community through new modalities of like telepathic communication, interspecies relationships, added to our relating with the various groups of humans on the planet. So that stretch, Cecilia, you're talking about of us in the Ecozoic as being new learners and new listeners. Thank you so much. And I think we would have time for one more, and then we're going to pull this together in a close. A summary closing. We're going to tie it up as a meditation. Would anyone else have one more aspect of the Ecozoic era that has come up with you or your group that we'd like to place into this mosaic that we're creating?
I guess the one thing, Gail, that when you were talking about Thomas Berry and his critical reflection, that we need to be mindful that we are not the participants of that which is destroying Earth, but rather that any changes that we make really become spiritual practices for giving birth and energy and desire and goodness and blessedness to that which we are definitely connected with, human and non-human, as part of our journey with them.
Thank you, Judith. So can we summarize that by saying the Ecozoic is a time of participation with the non-human and human as we journey together, as we grow spiritually and in all aspects. Is that capturing it, Judith? Yeah, thank you. So yes, we have this lovely mosaic. In the short time we have, we need so much more time to really pull this out and keep activating this in each other. But we've had tonight, we've had this, and what is here is activating. And Jessica, would you help us as we bring this to a close to through the music vibrationally deepen these activations in us for the Ecozoic era, and summarize for us, bring it in together, and we'll be so grateful for that.
Absolutely, and beautiful to be with everybody. And Gail, thank you, Sister Cheryl. So I feel Father Thomas's delight that with good hearts we're joining here, all of us. Gail, the incredible legacy that you bring into our hearts, awakening like a snake charmer, these latent potentials, and the most beautiful spirit there is, which is the spirit of our future. So I'm so struck by how we are at this pivotal moment now. This bifurcation is happening under our feet, as it were, and in our midst. So with good hearts, we enter into this contemplation. What it is the earth community is asking of us. That's the self-same thing as the uncoiling awakening of the latency in our very DNA. We were born for this moment. So as those beautiful leafy mulches are collected there, saved from the vacuum machine, they're happy to go on to their life as mulch and compost, harboring untold numbers of little critters. And the trust with the insects, with the bees, with every little creature in our midst, developing evolutionary rituals emerging from these awakening and awakened interrelationships with each other, with the youth, with all of life on earth, no matter where anyone is, all the potentials are there. not always easy, struggle to save the earth, these natural, beautiful rivers and brooks and streams that flow in the urban places, to save those from any impending pavement, just like Father Thomas felt under his feet, to save the self-same earth. Knowing how good that earth smells. This is, dear friends, the uncoiling of the ecozoic. It's the uncoiling of our true purpose and potential now on Earth. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And in this new playfulness and delight, our hearts will be freed, our minds, ourselves, joining together like lights across the world, helping to usher in, manifest and embody a new way of being, that communion of subjects. We truly are.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you, Cheryl. And thank you, everyone, for this lovely evening together. And deep blessings on Thomas Berry, who is with us, as you said, Jessica, so beautifully.
Yeah.
So have a blessed evening or day, whatever you're moving into. And we hope to see you again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye now, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
My pleasure.
Jessica.
Love to all.
Thanks, Gail.
Bye now. Thank you. Bye, Maurice.
Bye.
Bye, Maureen.
Hey, Gail.
Carol. Hi.
Hi, Ami. Great job.
Great to see you, Maurice. Happy you were here.
Yes,
Thank you.
you too.